Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Day 9 Daily number 646, where we learn to be a better gamer. In today's daily, we're going to admire a Chinese player by the name of MacSed's, a player who tragically has not been getting enough, I guess I'd just say support. Not enough love, not enough appreciation for being a big boss, because MacSed's played in a group of SaSe, Oz, and Scarlett, three extremely famous and extremely popular players. In particular, Scarlett, everyone was like, go Scarlett, because if she won there, then she would have gotten the chance to maybe qualify for the global finals at BlizzCon. But MacSed's, amazingly, was the one who came out first in his group yesterday. So we're going to be looking at his game, certainly his game versus Scarlett. We're probably going to have a little bit of time left open, so I give you the floor at that point in time to help steer me. Should we do his games versus Oz? Or his other game versus Scarlett? Yeah, that's the intro. I'll be playing GTA 5 on Friday, and we'll be doing Fun Day Monday on Monday. And then I'll be in, over the weekend, the WCS NA Grand Finals. So I hope to see you there. It'll be at Red Bull Santa Monica, or just on just go to teamliquid.net or Twitch TV over the weekend, and you'll see it up there. So cool. Also, I will be in Toronto, not this weekend, but the next weekend, for the Season 3 Grand Finals. Very thrilled about that. So that'll all be going down. That's everything, I think. Okay. Cat hair in the mouth. I will say, sort of philosophically, I don't think that there is enough back-patting that occurs when favorites get knocked out by lesser-known folk. Because Scarlett getting knocked down by MacSed's made a lot of people be like, oh no, Scarlett, and the misery about Scarlett, and it's all sad and tragic. And of course, people love Scarlett. Scarlett's awesome, but MacSed's also really good. So I want to make sure that we give him appropriate kudos and all those sorts of things. So let's go ahead and hop into it. The man by the name of Tassadar is in fact not Tassadar. That is MacSed's. Now, I kind of have an odd view on MacSed's because I've seen a lot of games of his, but he's shared an account with SaSe. So I actually don't know if my understanding of him is accurate, or if they're just games of SaSe that I've seen. I mean, certainly I've gotten data from seeing MacSed's in tournaments, but I don't know. I might be lying. I might have maybe just lied, but for the most part, MacSed's does tend to do kind of unusual builds. A lot of the Chinese folk do. I think notably, we got the chance to see Jim and friends doing a lot of the Colossus Phoenix type stuff. So we're going to be doing a little analysis of MacSed's on a map that I think many Protosses kind of have mixed opinions on. It's kind of a gross map for PvZ. Let's just go ahead and hop into the Protoss cam and take a look. So the reason I say it's gross is, ooh, look at this camera we got. Yeah, so it's just hugely open right here. This is really the scary stuffs, is this space. It's very easy for a Zerg to just go like huge amounts of Roach, Hydra, with a single infestation pit to tech to hive behind it. And they can apply a lot of pressure with just the basic layer stuff, and then boom, pop out 3 Vipers and snatch up all the big things. So this is a map that I'm always kind of on, and one of the maps why I personally really like going for some sort of gateway first on. I want to try to make sure that my opponent can't get the easy 3 base and macro up really hard. I almost prefer that he goes for something very gas heavy, like Mutalisky stuff, or that sort of thing, just so I can have a breather when I'm trying to go for this here base here. Technically, this isn't the hugest amount of space, but it really sucks that when you back into the corner for little force fieldies, you can easily run up here or down there. Both of them are very wide ramps. So Tassadar begins. Excuse me, MacSed's. Okay, if you have a barcode as a Smurf, that's cool, I can handle that. I can wrap my head around that. But if you pick the name Tassadar, I can't not call you Tassadar. That's a pretty dope name. Good old Tassadar. Thank God it's not Phoenix, because let's be honest, Tassadar or Zeratul, those are the real beasts of the Protoss campaign. None of this. I am I am Phoenix. Praetora Phoenix. And Taro Adune and whatnot. And this, that, and the other. And Taro Tassadar. Fuck yeah. Alright. Tassadar, aka MacSed, going for the usual bidness. And this, I think, is the only real justification for going for Probe Scout on 9. Pretty cool. You either, and I'll actually even note on some of the timing, pulling it back to right now, Scarlett was actually intending on going for a hatch first. I don't know if that was clear or not, but generally your hatch first will plop down a little after 2 minutes, something at like 2:10. So this arrives right before then. It's one of those little timings that it's hard to exist on all maps. You actually have to just be aware of it. But that's really cool. He sees this drone here, and then he goes, perfect. It's a fast hatch play. Just stays in between, and is going to thusly... Pylon, do it! Throw down the pylon! There was no rush for pylon. It actually goes down at kind of the natural time, at around 16. A little bit earlier than that, but effectively it's the exact timing that you would normally have. So we see our hero probe is continuing to try to stay here as long as possible, cancels it, rebuilds the other pylon back home. I just think that this is a very smart, very annoying play to do with the Gateway First build, so long as the Gateway First build is then smartly constructed after that. Because in this position, the way that I would... actually most Protosses would instinctively want to be playing is to just do their usual build again. Mothership core first, followed by the expand with absolutely nothing. There are, potentials to do things like what Huck does and go for the sort of Stalker first and then for the Warp Gate research, but most Little Bears will be going for the very fast Mothership core in this spot. I think it's obviously never going to be bad, but I'm always a little leery of doing something that skimps too much. So I kind of like this Zealot that's popping out right away. So alright, let's sort of step over onto Camp Scarlett's grounds and just sort of check out what's up. So Scarlett is just now seeing what's up. This is very typical to not really know what's going on until now. So does Scarlett go for the third hatch? Does she go for gas and tech up and that sort of thing? Whatever the choice may be, Scarlett is certainly really distracted. Even these Zerglings that are designed to be doing little scout arounds and spotting and all that, they popped out late because the attempted hatch first and because of all the distractions here. So we have a very high percentage victory probe right here. Now, non-stop chrono boosting on the warp gate is something that I have not seen in a long time. Really don't see it too much these days, but when you do see it, it's almost exclusively with a 3 gateway play. I almost never see 4 gateways in this spot. I mean, we watched a game of not Genius. Who was it? Who was it that we watched? We watched some guy. Oh my god, I'm gonna go crazy. We did it just a few dailies ago. It was PVZ. Was it Genius? Titan, that's right, Titan. Oh, woo, woo! Confused Korean Protoss with Russian Protoss. It happens. So this is kind of an unusually aggressive build in this position, but this makes sense on a couple of levels. For one, if we are doing aggressive mineraling things here with a pylon, we're going to be cutting ourselves out of some minerals. So going for a very early gas is a little bit difficult in that position. It's difficult to both go early gas and do stuff with it. So the way that Tassadar is able to have the funds to go for such a fast 3 gateways and actually have the money for it is by cutting this gas for a really long time. The way that players had for a while done the 3 gate thing is to like throw down the distance pylon, like a pylon here, and warp in 3 zealots and then 3 zealots and then move out, but Tassadar's doing just a lot of stuff right. He finishes, and then he moves up here, and then pulls back down, just making sure that there's no third. And in a position like this, I'm always very curious to see what Protosses will be doing with the Mothership Core here, because it's such a losable unit, and especially throwing down these time warps always feels so tempting. And I'm never quite sold if they're the best move or not, because it's very easy to walk away from it and then to do absolutely no damage. But we see a sort of same theme that we got the chance to see in that Titan game. There's 3 in each of these geysers, and there's no abandoning of this aggressive play. It's not just like, you know, warping in a fixed number like 6 or 7, hoping to surprise the Zerg. This is like really trying to punish Zerg super hard. And in particular, trying to punish Zerg for having too few queens. This is one of these like catch-22 situations for Zerg where either you get the expansion, or actually I should say this is the either-or of Tassadar's strategy. Either we do this warp in and pick off the expansion because Zerg went for an early third, or Zerg actually went for 4 queens and some defense and is still going to struggle against this. To sort of show what was going on in Scarlett's base, I'm going to pop back to this round right when the hatch was getting ready to go down. Scarlett in this position still had really no clue if it was an early expand or not, so Scarlett's sort of in the dark in that sense. With a delayed hatch like this, it's kind of inevitable that there's going to be some delay on the queen count. So we can see already that Warp Gate is getting en route. 2 queens are popping out. Here's the second one. Here's the moment where many Zergs will elect to expand, but Scarlett's a little smart for that. Throws down extra queens like immediately. And Warp Gate finishes the same time the extra 2 queens finish. So I mean, there's really not even a big difference between the drone count or the worker counts in this spot. Scarlett Cam. So definitely one of the big reasons why this is so effective. It's really hard to remember to do that key inject right there. So we have ourselves a very nice timing push. And because Scarlett's hatchery was delayed, Scarlett wants to be focusing more on droning because the larva and larva injects were delayed. And I want to note that how much sense this makes and how much little sense it makes with other build orders. I mean, there's early expand builds that are really, or I should say Nexus first builds for Protoss that are very much so focused on getting up big probe economy. Actually, here's a much better example. There are Nexus first builds that rely on really fast tech, such as getting your gateway and your cybernetics core fast so you can start an early Stargate, so you can get a bunch of Phoenixes. And then whatever happens beyond that isn't important, because that whole sequence, Gate Core Stargate, that's the core of the build I'm talking about, gets completely interrupted if you try to be cute and throw down 2 pylons at his base. You wind up delaying your own gateway or delaying your cybernetics core, and then doesn't wind up working. So I like this, that the pylon goes down to delay the hatch, but this doesn't slow down the warp gate play. The reason this attack is so strong is because we strike a Zerg fast. And what's the best way to make that strike stronger is if we can guarantee he's going to have less stuff. So the pylon block, I think, is particularly brilliant in this position. We have a very common answer as a follow-up. When things start to chill out a little bit, we get a robo and the rest of our gases. And by chill out, I mean we're not going to be doing warp-ins anymore. Now, Tassadar can just chill here for a little bit and then recall home. He can even march all the way down if he wants to. It shouldn't be terribly difficult, but he should definitely stay here as long as possible. And he does. The big swing. What do you know? Trying to maybe get into a good position to do a lot of damage, and see you later. Nice. And then just a kind of standard rounding out. getting a forge, getting a robo. These are all things that are necessary. Our wonderful proxy pylon probe is far away from the proxy pylon. Mothership core moves out to scout for 2 reasons. One, there's no energy to be able to do a photon overcharge. And 2, we've been putting so much pressure on Zerg that now's a reasonable time to scout. No reason to scout anywhere if there's 0 chance of there being something notable there. So great, so Tassadar manages to walk up here. Rarely ever will you be so lucky as to pick off the drone. But cool! Now Tassadar actually gets to see, oh, look at this. This is such a late third that I know that you probably went for a layer. These little tiny tells are in fact not so tiny. And Tassadar following up with this kind of push, I think a lot of people will find a little cheeky, a little cheesy perhaps. And I'm trying to think if I'm really I'm actually trying to think what I feel about this sort of play. It's obviously possible to do very well. I mean, we can see that everything MacSed's doing is lining up. +1 is getting close to being done. We have a warp prism that's popping out. Our 7 gateways are done. Is it 7? No, 6? 6? T says 6. Yeah. So what do I really feel about this? So the sort of stuff I'm considering is, if we've done a lot of damage, or I should say, what beats this attack? What would beat this attack is going to be a really tightly defended front that we can't break through, like a very spine-crawlery based thing. A lot of Zerglings with good upgrades would beat this. And in fact, Tassadar even has some of that information. Sees the 2 Evo chambers down, and if you studied Scarlett at all, you know Scarlett loves to do this sort of stuff. This was even the last daily that I did on Scarlett, was this sort of thing. So I look at this and I'm like, meh, I mean, kind of meh. The reason I would be like, okay, this is marginally fine, is if the goal of this was to knock out this expo. Or to deny this kind of expo. But in this position, this just feels very, very risky to me. What I would not mind is some... You can do sort of cheeky things like move down with 6 gates of forces and expand right away. That is increasingly becoming a favorite motion of mine. And you can even do some sort of funky things, like if you scout and see that there's no expansion here, you can just assume that he's doing something like going for fast mutilisks or fast upgrades, and be right an incredibly high percentage of the time. And even if you're wrong, he's still on 2 bases, so he can't really overwhelm you so much on the ground. But this is exactly why I don't quite like doing this push on 2 bases. See, this strikes me as just like psychotic. It strikes me as just like the most dangerous game, and exactly what Scarlett wants. So I feel like a lot of the advantage that Tassadar gained, he lost purely because he tried to really stay up here. Like, there's nothing wrong with just checking this. Oh, sees nothing. Moving on with his life. Probably one of the safest things to do in this position as Protoss is to actually go Forge, Twilight, Expo. And just get double Forge upgrades, get Blink at the Twilight Council without really making any Blink Stalkers, and then throw down lots and lots and lots of Hallucinated Phoenixes just to check out what's up. Because in this spot we now know that our Protoss opponent is, or our Zerg's opponent's going for Mutas, or he's going for ultra fast tech. We sort of know these things. So, I mean, this sort of follow-up, I think everyone's kind of seen before, the Stalker Immortal Force, but could have been an expansion, which wounds my little nerd Zerg, or my little nerd Protoss heart. Does the referee control the game speed? I don't even know you can do that. Okay, cool. Warp Prism drops. Something I'm definitely more of a fan of. Oh, crap. I totally forgot to mention that. Yeah, the Warp Prism that was part of the attack, that's another tool that I just really like as a passive play. Moving out and expanding like this, when we see our opponent is low on base count, seems super great. Because in this spot, what's Zerg going to do? Zerg has to get up a base super fast. And Zerg has to do some damage to us super fast. So if Zerg, say, was going mutas, moved out with a bunch of mutas and tried to assault this expansion, we can easily sort of waltz in here with a Warp Prism to take things down. I don't know if those Blink Stalkers as hallucinations were intentional or not, but whatevs. So I think that this is one of the cooler responses I've seen out of a player. What does Tassadar do with all this wiggling and weaving? Because kind of what I've been talking about is, I love the pylon opening, I love how it transitioned into 3 gates. The transition to just the standard Immortal Sentry push is almost always reasonable after you've done some early damage, but the attempt to commit up the ramp against a 2-base player is obviously going to be bad, because there's like 50 Spine Crawlers on top. Then, of course, pulls back and goes for a more typical mix, Immortals and Blink Stalkers and +2. But then Tassadar, MacSed's sees still no third. In fact, sees Infestation Pit and Infestors and a Hive. So he does this. He goes for double Robo with the Robo Bay, because he's going to be up against the scary Ground Army Ling Ultra Infestor. It's hilariously best answered by an almost exclusively Robo Bay composition. So, with that in mind, amazingly it's been 20 minutes, so I'm just going to stop for part 1, and then we'll come back and finish this game, and probably see another game in part 3.